Hello and welcome to the day ahead. It is Tuesday, January the 27th. I'm Andrew Gagan. Well, the local market is set to rally this morning with ASX futures up around 0.5%. Global stocks climbed for a fourth straight session on Monday, while gold surged to a new record above $5,100 an ounce. On Wall Street, US stocks were higher, buoyed in part by gains in the S&P 500 communication services and tech sectors, with investors awaiting earnings from a host of megacap stocks, while there's high expectations ahead of the Federal Reserve's interest rate decision later this week. Well, gains among AI hyperscalers boosted the S&P 500, with Apple, Meta, Alphabet and Broadcom adding around 2%, each. Microsoft also rising. Apple, Meta, Microsoft and Tesla are due to report quarterly results later this week, with investors looking for signs of measurable payoffs from AI spending amid concerns over high valuations. Shares of chipmaker Intel have continued falling, having lost 17% on Friday for their steepest drop in nearly 18 months, after the company forecast quarterly profit and revenue below estimates. CoreWeave shares jumped after Nvidia said it would invest $2 billion in the cloud infrastructure firm. Meanwhile, airline stocks paired earlier losses as they dealt with the aftermath of mass disruptions in flight schedules after a massive winter storm hit the eastern United States. Shares of US rare earth surged on reports that the US administration is taking a 10% stake in the miner as part of a $1.6 billion debt and equity investment package. And shares of gold miners rose as bullion prices soared above $5,000. And US listed shares of BHP and Rio Tinto rose, tracking a higher copper price. Well, US President Donald Trump has threatened to impose a 100% tariff on Canadian exports to the US if it follows through on a trade deal with China. The Canadian Prime Minister this month travelled to China to reset the country's strained relationship and reach a trade deal with Canada's second biggest trading partner after the US. In the US, new orders for key manufactured capital goods increased more than expected in November, rising 5.3%, suggesting business spending on equipment maintained a steady growth pace in the fourth quarter. Well, the yield on the benchmark US 10-year Treasury note is slightly lower as markets assess key events this week, including the Federal Reserve decision. The yield on the 10-year falling more than 2 basis points to 4.21%. The 2-year is close to 3.6%, ahead of a $69 billion auction. And the US dollar fell across the board, and the Japanese yen jumped to a more than 2-month high as speculation mounted about joint US-Japan currency intervention. The Aussie dollar has continued its ascent, climbing above 69 US cents, currently around 69.2 US cents. Well, oil prices are slightly lower after climbing more than 2% in the previous session, as investors consider the impact on output in US crude producing regions from winter storms and the impact of any tensions between the US and Iran. Brent crude futures down around 0.5% at $65 a barrel. Gold briefly broke through $5,100 an ounce for the first time, while silver topped $114 an ounce, and platinum also scaled all-time highs as investors seek a safe haven amid international political tension. Spot gold has since retreated a little, but it is still up around 1.5% at around $5,050 an ounce. And Goldman Sachs says risk appetite is now very elevated, with the firm's risk appetite indicator for gold at its highest level since 2021. Now, Bitcoin is trading below $88,000. Locally today, NAB will release its December business confidence and conditions report. On the corporate calendar, Karoon Energy is due to release its December quarterly report. And ahead of locally this week, tomorrow we get key inflation data with the December quarter consumer price index. On Friday we get producer prices for the quarter as well as private sector credit. Overseas, Wednesday or Thursday morning our time, the Fed will make its policy decision. Thursday sees the US trade balance and jobless claims, and Friday Japan's jobs data and the Eurozone's fourth quarter GDP. That's your week ahead. See you again tomorrow.